Welcome to episode 78 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, bringing you with the regular crew. So I'm not going to even go through it. We're going to throw it to each guy. I don't have to introduce who it is. A week ago, we all sat here. Phillies were up 2-0 in the series, and not one of us said they were going to lose the series. Obviously, Chalky did that reverse jinx, mush, whatever he does, and said it might go 6. But nobody said they're going to lose the series, and it's a week later, and here we are. And Phillies are eliminated. I'm just going to go right into it, Jason. What the hell happened?
All right. So the first thing I'm going to say is if I told you guys before the series that Zach Gallen would be awful in both of his starts and Corbin Carroll would be invisible in the first 6 games of the series, would any of you have any inkling at all that Arizona would win the series, right? And somehow, inexplicably, it happened. So I'm gonna start it this way because everybody's gonna point to the hitting, and the hitting is totally a humongous part of it. When Turner, Harper, and Castellanos in the games that they lost, those 3 guys were 2 for 42 in the games that they lost. All right. So that hitting is a humongous part of it, but I'm gonna approach it this way. I'm gonna say there were 2 major momentum shift turning points in this series, and I'm gonna say that Game 4, when the Phillies were up 5-2 and blew that game, the bullpen, Thompson brings in Kirkering, who obviously was not anywhere ready for the moment. I guess he had brought in Soto before, so Soto is a gas can, right, in and of itself. Then he brings in Kirkering, who's another gas can, and then he ends it with, in the 8th inning, bringing in Kimbrel, who Kimbrel pitched. I don't recall, and I should have looked at this. At least 20-something pitches in Game 3 when he blew that game. So now he's pitching back-to-back nights, and blows the game in horrific fashion. So I think that's the game that probably cost them the series. However, they came back and won Game 5, and they won it convincingly. Now, my point is, in Game 6, Aaron Nola is against Kelly. If Aaron Nola could keep them scoreless at least through the first time through the order, and the Phillies could get a lead somehow, now Arizona's thinking, hey, here we go again. We got boat raced in the first 2 games in this series, and Philadelphia is 6-0 at home this year, and the crowd's going wild, and we can't win this game. And I think they would have rolled over and died. I think they would have just pressed. Kelly would have started pressing, and they would have rolled over and died. But nope, Noel has that disastrous second inning. Gives up 3 runs. And now all of a sudden, Kelly, who is pitching around Schwarber and Harper, he doesn't really have to anymore because it's 3-0. If he gives up a home run, all right, it's 3-1. Okay. So now he could go right at them, right? And the crowd's now out of the game. And like I said, Arizona's kind of believing in themselves now as, hey, maybe we can win. Maybe we can win here. And there you go. And even Tom, after they lost Game 7, someone asked Thompson in the press conference what the momentum shifts of the series were. And he said, I would say Game 4, but then we won Game 5. And he said, honestly, he said when Arizona got the lead in Game 6, that was the key momentum shift in the series. And that's what I think, too. Obviously, hitting is a humongous part of why they lost. But, I wanted to approach it that way. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Chalky, for initial thoughts?
I mean, game 4 is where the series end up, being lost. You scored, your 3 losses were, 1 run, and 2 runs scored, but you put up 5 in Game 4. You're supposed to win that game. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we didn't really talk about last week, so this is going to sound like Monday morning quarterback, but I didn't like the idea of starting Sanchez. Now, they said he looked better in the simulation game than Walker, so Walker must have looked god-awful. If I'm going to give somebody the ball there for 3 innings, I'm giving it to Walker. And then knowing that you're going to have a quick hook, he went back to your short relievers and didn't use Lorenzen. And Lorenzen looked fine later in the series. I mean, if you're pulling the guy out in the third inning, you got to get a couple more innings, especially since Suarez had a quick hook the day before. All right, so you put Hoffman in to get out of whatever inning that was, the third or the fourth.
Third inning.
Now you need some guys to eat some innings in the middle. And hopefully, obviously, he had faith in using Kimbrel again, but I mean, that's what killed him. I mean, those first two games, the two games they lost in Arizona, they had the lead going in the bottom of the seventh. Now, game 3, it was 1-0, and they were, they got the run on the wild pitch, so they weren't hitting anything. But, you had a 3-run lead in game 4. Really, the first 2 runs were runs that they gave Arizona between errors or giving them extra bases or giving them extra, appearances at the plate. So really, it was like a 5-0 game for all intents and purposes, and they hadn't really done a whole lot worthwhile on offense. And then that falls apart. Kirkring, just wasn't there. It was like deja vu. It was like the same pitch over and over, like off-speed breaking ball goes outside, like over and over between Kirkring and Kimbrel and whatever else. And that was the game you win, and then you win in 5. And at home, the 2 games they lost here, those are the first games that of any of the games that they let up runs the first time through the rotation, through the lineup, right? So game 6, it was the second inning. Game 7, it was the first. And I guess one other turning point, if you want to call it that, was bottom of the 4th in game 7. They get 1 run, but they lose the run when Stott was on second, and the ball was hit to the left side, and they didn't read it right, and so he didn't get home on Real Muto, had to hit, and got stranded. And then, but you got the lead now, and then you give it right back. So there wasn't a shutdown inning, it wasn't a clean inning, and then they didn't know how to come from behind in the later innings in any of these games, and it just, it didn't happen.
Yeah, Meeker.
Yeah, that's the point. That the last point you made, Chalky, is what I'll remember from this series, is that the Phillies play from ahead. They win games. When they have to come back in these games, they didn't win. In game 7, they did take a lead. But I'm going to go to game 4 for just a second. Now, of course, we all know what happened with game 4. We all want to blame Kimbrel. But in the end, I think a game like this, when you're deciding before the game that you're going to play a bullpen game, or you're going to pitch Sanchez, who is not going to give you a whole lot of length, going into the playoffs when you don't have a 4th starter that you trust, which I guess they didn't, even though they paid a free agent $18 million and got a deadline deal at the end for Lorenzen, who they thought was going to be their solid 4th starter. You have to go into this game thinking too many things are going to go right, and you're going to put pitchers in situations or put them in early in games when you wouldn't ordinarily do it. You have to manage in a certain way to try and bridge yourself to get to the 9th inning. And I don't think Thompson would have even thought about putting Kimbrel in a normal game. Make it normal in that situation. But, he had to use a lot of his pieces earlier in the game. He was kind of boxed in there to be able to. He had no other choice basically but to do that. We were texting back and forth during that time, and we were all like, "Oh my God, this is a disaster waiting to happen," and obviously it happened. But in a game like this, when you manage in the playoffs, and this is the type of game you're playing, anything can happen because you're relying on 6 relievers to get you through a game, and if one of them is off, this is the kind of stuff that can happen in the game.
But Arizona was in the same bucket, if not worse bucket.
True.
And the Phillies had a 3-run lead in the 6th inning.
I know. But would they have put Kimbrel in that game?
No, the mistake was he managed the game knowing he was going to put Kimbrel in the 8th or the 9th. Instead of managing the game with Kimbrel isn't going to be used in this game. And if he
I would have pitched Kimbrel in like the 3rd or 4th inning if you had to use him.
I think Chalky brought up
7th or 8th inning.
I think Chalky brought up a good point with Lorenzen.
Yeah.
Like why was he totally abandoned, this guy? Why was Lorenzen not used?
I would say because he hadn't pitched well, since the no-hitter, and They didn't trust him.
But they
I mean,
trust
he
Kirk.
got,
But
he
they
got, he
trust
got it a couple
Kirkring?
times. Yeah, in the playoffs, he pitched
was
game
fine.
2. He was okay, and then he
Yeah.
get some innings in the Braves. I mean,
So
if
he
you're
trusted
if you're going
Kirkring
to
over him.
like, I mean, you're going to a bullpen game, and you got it's in my mind, and again, it's going to sound like after the fact, like we know better, but like you need 2 pitchers to get you through 5 or 6 innings if you're
Right.
if that's the way it's going to be. If you're going to have a quick hook, you got to have somebody coming. So if he would have put Walker in behind him, which Walker's not a reliever, okay, but I would have understood that. But you get Hoffman in, he gives you an inning and 2/3, so now you're through 4. Strom has an inning, Dominguez has an inning. I mean, you could have put Lorenzen in for the 5th and the 6th. So then you get to Strom, Dominguez, Alvarado, maybe Kimbrel if you have to. So then like you're getting to it now instead of trying to, you got Soto coming in, and I mean, I don't know. I just didn't get it because it's like you're bringing in Sanchez who has no experience. He's a lefty. Like the Diamondbacks lineup is predominantly right-handed, so you're not getting an advantage there in terms of the matchup. So I mean, maybe Walker looked absolutely atrocious in whatever simulation game they did, but he had been off as long as Sanchez had. So I don't know.
I don't know. To me, he managed that game with like they stopped. They weren't really hitting the ball. They wanted to curb their losses, so they brought Hoffman in, in that game to keep it at a 1-run game. If Hoffman doesn't, or if one of the other pitchers starts to, the wheels come off like it did in Game 6, then he's going to throw a bunch of slop and they live to play another day. But because they got the lead, now he's forced to play the relievers that I don't know if he – because I think he saw that something that the hitting was starting to slip like it did last year in the World Series where they go from, putting up 10 runs to putting up 0 hits. And to me, he panicked and said, I can't let up more runs. What, it was 1-0 at the time? It was a 1-run, 2-1. It was a one-run game at the time.
Well, it ended up by the end of the inning it was 2. I don't know if did Hoffman give up a hit?
No, Hoffman got out of it.
Hoffman
Got out of it.
Yeah,
well, Hoffman came in the 3rd. It was 2-1, 2-0 at the end of the 3rd.
Then it was a 2-run game, and he didn't think he could let up. They could come back with any more runs.
Right.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the Hoffman. Like Hoffman came in. Hoffman
In the
was
3rd
done after-
inning? That's
Nah,
yeah,
I would have did that.
I mean, look, they're trying to shut.
reliever.
I'm okay with
Second
it.
best
It's the move after that is where I would say. So Hoffman pitched to the 4th. By the bottom of the 5th, the game is tied. It might be tied for a couple innings. You used 5 relievers the night before. That's where you put Lorenzen in, and you see if he can get 2 innings out of it.
When was it tied in the bottom of
lead.
it? Was tied in the 5th? Is that when they?
Phillies tied it in the top of the 5th. It was 2-2 going to the bottom of the 5th. He brought in Strom. Okay, that's but then bottom of the 6th, it's 4-2. Then that's when Soto came in, I think.
None of that. That doesn't sound correct. Because it was 5-2 when Kirk.
I have the box score. Yeah, it was 5-2 in the bottom of the 7th.
Dominguez came.
They scored one. They scored 1 run in the top of the 7th to make it 5-2, and then Kirkring came
in the bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
Kirkring came in to save Soto, who was wild as all hell, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I just, if it, I would say the Hoffman. I'm not going to argue with that because you wanted to get out of that. But okay, bottom of the 5th, it's a 2-2 game. You use all your levers. That's where you put a guy that you hope to get 2 innings out of, and Lorenzen could have did that. And the other thing you made a good point is that, especially the last 2 games, like they were not throwing strikes to, your 1 and your 3 hitters. They weren't seeing. I mean, they got pitches to hit. Harper, that pitch he hit to the warning track had a expected batting average of 750 and like home run 25% of the time, and of course it got caught. But they weren't seeing. Schwarber and Harper weren't seeing the pitches that they were seeing earlier, and they were swinging and missing at the balls that were not anywhere near the plate. And the Phillies started chasing because they pressed like you said, Tom, where they weren't starting to hit, and they weren't giving them a lot of stuff to hit, and they chased every single one of them almost.
Yeah, because they were pressing. Oh my God, huge pressing in Game 7. Because you're in a Game 7. And you don't get a hit.
Yeah, but that just can't happen. That's 2 years in a row now that happened. That can't happen.
There's 2 guys in particular that looked embarrassed. I have a list. I know Meeker gave a list. I have a list of the blame guys. Obviously, Kimbrel's first and foremost, but Castellanos.
Yeah, I mean,
he didn't even hit a ball that was close to being hit.
he was 0-2 every at bat. Every at bat.
Yeah. I said it in the text. It looked like he got up and he was like, "I'm not seeing more than 3 pitches at this at bat."
Yeah,
Like, he was going to swing, and if it got him play before, then great. But he wasn't going to see more than 3 pitches.
Hoping he caught a fastball, I guess.
Yeah, it was
because
guessing. Big time guessing.
Turner. I mean, Turner. To me, Turner is a head case, man.
And Turner is the reason they lost. And I don't blame it on Turner. It's the part. If you look at the season, they struggled during the early parts of the season. When they started to really get on rolls, when Turner got on the roll. And that's when the lineup completely changed. When Turner started to struggle, then the lineup started to struggle. He's the key to the entire lineup. So I blame him because of that. Now, that's unfair because there was many guys that were the reason. But he's the key to the lineup.
Lost.
If he does his job, though, if he does his job and moves the runner, Harper's hit to left field, scores Schwarber.
Yeah, but I mean he also could be pitched different too.
And then why is he bunting?
Yeah, he did that on his own
Turner
because he knew he was completely lost. He knew.
Oh my God!
Well, you're doing crazy things when you have a lack of confidence. You know,
he's a real head case. He's a real head case. That guy.
There was no excuse for what happened in that series. No excuse.
And then when Schwarber and Harper were actually drawing walks, because Harper didn't have a lot of hits the last couple of games, but he drew a bunch of walks. Then you had a black hole in the middle of the lineup for a couple of the games where
Bowman
cost them tons of runs.
If you get Game 7 out of Bohm or Stott in either Game 3 or 4, they win in 4 or 5 games.
It was
or even Game 6, because then you had 2 guys on the first inning. One of those guys hits a ball, you're up maybe 2-0. That changes the whole complexion of Game 6, because you got the lead. But
now we can go through guys to blame. I mean, no problem. To me, it was every single guy had a hand in losing that series.
Oh yeah,
every single one except Marsh. I don't think Marsh or Wheeler had anything to do with it. But every single.
I'll add Strom. Strom didn't have any bad habits,
Schwarber. You can't say Schwarber. I mean, Schwarber had.
Schwarber. Yeah, Schwarber too. He was. Yeah, about it. Well, I sent you the stats.
But he had some. I mean, Schwarber. No, but like those last 2 games, he had some bad at bats where he was just swinging at stuff.
He had a 500 on base percentage.
Oh, no, I'm not saying he had a bad series. I'm just saying, like, at the end,
he got squeezed. He was getting some squeezed pitches. Those low pitches they were calling on him. But
I mean, and they've been saying this all playoffs too. Like they talk about how Harper has such a great eye. He swings and misses more than anybody.
Well, he swings
other than Castellanos.
He swings at that first pitch.
Maybe he's got a great eye, but he's got an eye that swings and misses.
The bottom of the 7th, Harper had watched the first fastball down the middle of the plate, and then missed that second fastball that he popped up was a home run pitch. It was a fastball dead down the middle on a 2-1 count. What are you looking for there?
Can't let Harper off the hook. I mean, 0 for 12 in the 4 games they lost.
And he finished the series 0 for 7, right? The last 2 games.
Yeah, he didn't have a hit the last 2 games.
He hit the ball hard at times.
Look, I mean, Game 7, Arizona did everything right. They won the game with 9 singles. 9 singles.
And 2-out hits. They had how many runs with 2 outs? At least 2. Maybe more.
Exactly.
I have stats here.
The Phillies did not hit with runners in scoring position. They were 1 for 11.
They
left the bases loaded.
And I have stats.
Well, quick before the stats. I mean, everybody raves about Alvarado. Alvarado came in and did not do his job. He let up at least 2 runs with inherited runners, right?
This is the second straight year in the closeout game that he kind of crapped the bed.
I mean,
all right.
He's a left-handed pitcher against Carroll, and he has him down 1-2 in the count, and he lets up a sac fly.
Second straight year that he crapped the bed. It's the second straight year. I don't think this guy can be your closer. I don't.
I agree.
We'll get into that later.
Well, we
save that for 2 weeks.
That inning, Jason. We said, well, that maybe wasn't that inning, but we said that if you're going to lift Suarez, why are you lifting him in the middle of an inning? If you're going to lift him, just lift him.
That was a mistake. He
inning.
does that all the time. I don't like when you bring in a reliever who's now got inherited runners. Let the guy start the inning.
I think that's the spot. I actually think that's the spot you basically should have used Wheeler. You just have him come in, clean inning, start the inning. If you're going to use him there. Keep the game close and use them there, because then you have your three best relievers to pitch you through the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning.
Yeah, but
I think it was they got that lead and it was too important to have a shutdown inning, and he let Suarez go out there and he let up the run.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Thompson he did a terrible. All the games they lost. He had a hand in those big
He's
time.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think, look, they got the lead right, so it was like, okay, like they got beat, pretty soundly in Game 6. Game 7, they start down. Okay, we got the lead now. It's 2-1. I don't want to say they put it on autopilot, but it's like it's top of 5th. We're at home. The crowd's back into it. We're not going to lose this game. And then all of a sudden, it's 2 runs, and now you're down again.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Carroll. I mean, Walker had 2 hits. Walker had 2 hits the whole series.
Terrible. Yeah.
He's at 33. He's 33 and 100 RBIs. You shut down 2 of their biggest bats, and you still lost the series.
Everybody wants to point to the Phillies didn't hit and the Phillies didn't hit. Let me give you stats. So the Phillies were 7 for 44 runners in scoring position. Awful. Arizona was only 12 for 55. All right, so they hit 218 of runners in scoring position. In the series, the Phillies scored 30 runs. Arizona scored 22 runs. Now, you could take out the second game because the Phillies won 10-0. They still only outscored the Phillies by 2 runs if you take that game out. There are key points in this series. The Phillies hit well enough to win this series if they win Game 4. All right? And they blew Game 4. Yeah. And then I am blaming Aaron Nola. He's got a big hand in this because he got outpitched by Kelly in Game 6, specifically in that second inning when he gave life to that Arizona team. The Arizona team was ready to roll over and die in that game. And they got life, and they took it, and that was it. He gets a big blame from me. And there's one more guy I'm going to blame. I'm going to blame Dombrowski because he went into this playoffs with this Kimbrel as his closer.
He did nothing at the trade deadline. Nothing.
There were closers available, specifically a guy named Paul Sewald. Okay? Yeah. Specifically a guy named Paul Sewald. And look what happened.
He got you Lorenzen and he got you Castro. That was his deadline deals. Neither guy did it. Well, Castro didn't play.
I don't understand why he didn't add to the bullpen. I do not understand why he didn't add to the bullpen.
I could cross that off the list because that was on my list as well, the Dombrowski. Cross that off.
Well, I mean, right there in front of you. Paul Sewald owned the Phillies. Now, you would have had a closer for next year. Because now, who the hell's the closer next year? They got to go get a closer now.
All right, yeah.
They don't have a closer in this roster.
So what do you? Yeah. So we won't get into detail. I mean, does anybody else have? I mean, they flat out choked. I don't know. Do you guys have other guys to blame?
I just had 2 more things. I mean, I think the big thing. I mean, yes, they choked. I mean, obviously they did. Arizona's bullpen outpitched the Phillies' bullpen in Game 6 and 7. I mean, they were excellent in Game 7. They didn't give up a hit, basically. So that's huge.
And Game 3 and 4 too. Game 3 and 4 too.
Yeah, and I think about this because I think when I think back to 2008 and some of the big hits that some of the guys from the bench had, you go into these playoffs with a bench basically that you didn't use not one time, with Rojas who's hitting 040. Think about to 08 when you had some big hits from Matt Stairs and Greg Dobbs and all those guys. They didn't use the bench at all. They had opportunities to use the bench. Obviously, you could have pinch hit for Rojas with the bases loaded. I don't know what a Sosa or a Pache would have done in that situation, but then you decide to pinch hit for him later in the game when you should have pinched hit for him with the bases.
That tells you they should have pinch hit for him when they pinch hit for him a couple innings later with nobody on base or whatever it was.
And let me listen, 2008 is a different situation.
Yeah, this is what I want to say.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got the DH, which eliminates a lot of it.
That's what it is. The DH has created that, all your roster spots are relief pitchers, and you really don't have much off the bench to come in and give you a big hit in a situation for a weak hitter like Rojas. But you went the whole series playing him in center field and having an automatic out at the bottom of your lineup every at bat. And that also is a big problem and why they might have lost this series.
And with Rojas, the guy can't hit, and he knows he can't hit. The team, why is he swinging at pitches
He's known
that
how
aren't even close. I'd rather see him not swing. Just take pitches.
Right.
He would have been ahead in counts.
They kept saying, "Well, this team has so much hitting that they could afford to have an out in the lineup." And you see why.
Well, the problem was in the last 2 games they had 5 outs in the lineup with Castellanos, Turner, Rojas.
You can never have an out in the lineup when the other team don't have an out in the lineup. Like, you just can't.
Wow.
Like,
They had a few outs, and they had some bad guys.
I understand, but I'm saying when the other team has a DH, you need to have 9 guys that could hit also.
Yeah.
This guy, they got to get him to learn how to hit in the offseason, to learn how to slap the ball on the ground like Vince Coleman used to do, like stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, he didn't come through in the playoffs. He hit 300 or whatever in the regular season, so there's something there that hopefully they can work with.
Yeah,
with
but
a
you
little more
saw
time
they
in spring
identified
training,
his weaknesses.
They figured him out.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, so he's got to adjust. I mean, look, they identified weaknesses on pretty much the whole lineup by the time you got to game 6 and 7, and they outplayed him. I mean, it was strategy. I mean, the other thing I'll just throw in is that I was trying to find the stats. I'm not seeing it, but like the last 2 games, they stranded a bunch of players, but the series completely flipped as far as aggressiveness on the base pass, where all of a sudden Arizona started stealing bases, and the Phillies weren't trying to get aggressive at all. Like game 5, first inning, they did the double steal, but then like after like last 2 games, it just seemed like they weren't.
They didn't have base runners.
They didn't
after
have
the
many
5th
base
inning.
runners.
Well, but they had him early in both of the games. First, they left 6 guys in scoring position in game 6 in the first 3 innings, and they had guys on.
Well,
I
that's
don't
what
know.
happens.
Yeah,
You get
it's-
singles,
it's-
you
but
get home runs all-
You're
Well,
figuring
that-
home run's going to come up and mash it, and they weren't hitting home runs.
It wasn't.
Like
They
the
also
last
had
2
guys.
games.
I mean, Schwarber was on base. How many times in the last game? 2
can't
times.
run.
He can't run. So there's 5.
This team
There's
lives
33%
and
of
dies by the home run. Their approach at the plate is awful, and especially a guy like Turner, who is not a home run hitter and is fastest guy in the league. Just dude, you can hit the ball on the ground and get an infield single. You know, you don't have to
you
try
guys
and
feel
throw the
like
ball.
he should get down the line faster? Like, he's so fast and he's always out, like
There's
out
a few. I guess
ground
it's.
balls.
I mean, I gotta imagine it's normal, but there's been a couple of those like weak choppers to shortstop where he charges a little bit, and he's out by a lot. And
That's what I'm
and the
saying.
same thing.
He's so
I'm.
fast.
But he's running, so I have to imagine
He
he
is
just.
running, but it's just odd to me.
Yeah,
Like, you
maybe
think
he
should
doesn't
be-
break well from the box. I don't know.
He might not break
Could
well.
be. Yeah,
might
but
not
you know,
break.
Because they call him the fastest player in the league or whatever. So I guess once he starts going, but
And now, but
you think that those plays will be a little closer, like Tommy was saying.
but now 2
Arizona
years in a
is
row,
better.
2 years in a row,
That's what he's-
their bats completely just died. So chances are they probably would have died at some point in the World Series too, because this is. But that's that. Now you're seeing this team is flawed because of that, right? I mean, so
Absolutely.
what do you do? So where do the changes come from? Who do you replace? You know, what kind of players do you bring
I have
in?
changes.
Go ahead, Jason. Yeah, take it away.
I have changes. So number one, obviously Kimbrel is
Yeah,
gone.
the obvious.
Gone. Soto's got to be gone. He's useless. Gotta be
The
gone.
bullpen needs to be improved. I mean, you don't have to go through bullpen because, I mean,
Okay.
we kind of know who stays and who goes.
right.
But Nola, what do you do with Nola?
Gone. And I'm gonna give you reasons why. All right. So Aaron Nola. So Meeker and I were talking about this, and I'm gonna dispute what you said about Nola. So Nola in the NLCS last year and the World Series last year and the NLCS this year, Nola had a 6.9 ERA and a 1.41 WHIP. And Meeker was saying, and I'm not trying to point you out, but just because you said this, I just want to tell you.
Point you out.
You were saying the rumor was like it's because it's cold and he can't get the grip on the ball that he wants to get and all. Well, it wasn't cold in San Diego, and it wasn't cold in Houston because they're in a dome. And maybe this year it was cold, but I don't buy that.
They said that something went glitchy on his mechanics in game 6 in those couple innings. What, I don't know, but
I don't know.
That's what I heard.
But my point is, the guy's been a very good pitcher for the Phillies. He's going to want too much money for what he's worth and for what he's given them, and he has not given them what they need for a number 2 starter in these crucial situations, and I think he should be gone. I would not resign him.
he's too up and down for me to be a number 2.
I'm going to give you 2 more guys. Castellanos has to go. That's it for him.
You're stuck.
Like
I mean, he's got 3 more years on his deal, right?
nah, I think
could
teams
trade
would
him.
want a guy that could hit like that, like him. I think teams around the league, and I'm going to give you a team, and then one more, Taiwan Walker. I don't care what he makes, as you paid him, and he should be pitching because they paid him this much. He stinks. Like he's not a good pitcher. He's just not. He's mediocre at best.
He's a regular season innings filler.
He could fill innings, and he's going to get a 4.5 ERA, and he's going to give up a run in the first inning, and gone. And I'm going to give you real fast what they should do. I honestly think, and you guys know how I feel about Hoskins, but if he's going to come back cheap, I think you have to sign him. I do. I think you have to sign him.
Yeah, but what do you do? So you're back to Harper in the outfield?
Harper's going to play right field. And I want to trade Castellanos, and I think you should go to a team like Miami because he's from there. They always could use hitting. Another team that could always use hitting is Tampa Bay. Go to one of those teams. Try to get one of their pitchers for him. Maybe you might have to give up Abel. You might have to give up, a prospect to get. I would love to get Luzardo from Miami. I don't know if you're going to get him.
I think Tampa's, from what I was reading, Tampa's looking to shed money, not take on a contract
Okay,
like
so maybe
Castellanos.
not
So
Tampa.
Tampa has a player or two that if you're willing to trade Abel or somebody else, you can move Castellanos. I'm forgetting his name now, but the left fielder has hit like 300 the last couple of years. He might be on the trade block. They said.
Yeah, but I would rather use that capital to get a pitcher because now you're Nola,
you
you're gonna
could do that.
Nola.
You could do that too. I just you're not going to unload the big Castellanos contract on the Tampa Bay. I don't think Miami. Now the story was he was going. He thought he was going to Miami, and then he signed here because he's got his friends here. So, does he want to go to? I mean, it's not up to him. But now, are you going to piss off half the team that love him if you do trade him? I mean, it's. If Hoskins is back, I think that obviously, keeps the morale higher. But
two more quick things. You got to sign Hoffman. You need that arm back. He's a good pitcher. I would go after Wandy Peralta for the Yankees. He's a good left-handed reliever. They were thinking about trading him at the deadline this year. I would replace Soto with him, and you got to get a closer. I don't have a name, but you got to go out and get a closer somewhere. Alvarado ain't the closer. He can't be. He's not a closer.
How about you guys? How about you, Chalky? Anything on that front?
I mean, I'd love to be able to make all those moves, but the question is, obviously, what are you getting back? Like, all right, so if you move Walker, now you need 3 starters because...
Well, I think they could sign Lorenzen. I should have threw that in. I would sign
okay,
Lorenzen.
so then Lorenzen staying, so now you got to find 2 other starters. And I think where we were a year ago, it might have seemed a lot easier because you were expecting to have Painter get some innings in this year, and then he could slot in 4th or 5th, and he's a cheap arm that's young. Now he's out until next year, or not next year as the next season, but 2 seasons before he's even going to give you anything. So that's where you could have gotten a little cheaper in the rotation, but now you got to go. You're going to have to find people if you don't bring Nola back.
I think you only have to find one starter though, because if you're going to have Wheeler, you're going to have Suarez, you're going to have Sanchez. I think he's going to start next year, and you'll have Lorenzen.
Yeah, I guess I would look to upgrade, but okay. I mean, yeah, it depends. Like, look, maybe they bring. I mean, there's names out there we won't get into free agents now, and then you got the bullpen. I mean, look, Hader is the obvious stud. That's the reliever that's going to be out there. He's going to get a lot of money. I don't know if they're going to throw that his way or not, but that's you can't go into another. This is 2 seasons in a row where it was like, well, who might close the night? And Kimbrel was out of gas in September. That was pretty obvious, and the other guys just aren't consistent enough. So. Unless you make Suarez the closer, now you need 4 starters. But, I don't know that that's the right way to go either. But
Yeah, Meeker.
So, Jason, your scenario, essentially, because Hoskins didn't play all year, Hoskins' bat replaces Castellanos' bat. You trade Castellanos for an arm if you can get it, which I agree with. I agree with both of those things because Castellanos is just way too unpredictable for me. I can't take his inconsistency. Not that Hoskins is the most consistent hitter in the world, but he's a little bit more consistent than Castellanos is. I worry a little bit about moving Bryce Harper to right field in that scenario, if that's what you're talking about. So maybe what you do is you go out and sign um, another bat, and move and keep Harper at DH, or
And you're
something
putting
to that.
Schwarber back in left field?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. But
No.
what I would do is I would sign a lower
you'd
level
have to.
bat that could platoon with Rojas or platoon with Marsh, right? Whether it's a right-hander to platoon with Marsh or a lefty in center field that could platoon with Rojas. I think they have to add something small like that too.
Yeah. But obviously we need bullpen pieces. I don't know if the Phil. I mean, I guess if you're not signing Nola, I mean, will the Phillies go out and get a free agent pitcher like a Snell? Would you rather have him, or would you rather try and make the trade?
Well, here's the thing. So Stroman's not a free agent this year. He's a free agent next year. So maybe you trade for a guy like that who's got 1 year left, and then see how he does here, and if you want to re-sign him or whatever. I don't know if I would spend the money on Snell. I don't know if I would do that.
I can't see them spending on the top pitcher in the
Well,
market
he's
or
going
whatever.
to get similar money to Nola. So it's
Well,
just a
let
matter
me
of who would you
let me-
rather
let me
have.
throw this in.
I think you have to roll the dice and try to find a Wheeler type that's like, you're not getting cheap. Like Wheeler wasn't a cheap contract, but he overperformed what they paid for him or in the market.
And speaking of Wheeler, guess who's up next year? Wheeler.
Yeah, Wheeler.
So you're going to have to spend a lot of money if you want to keep Zach Wheeler here. So they're not. I don't think they're going to go out and get Snell because they got to spend money on Wheeler.
Oh, you're not spending money on Nola, so you'd rather make the trade.
So the other thing, so Stroman has an opt out.
Okay.
So he could be a free agent, and he wasn't
Okay.
happy that they weren't really negotiating a contract. Doesn't mean he's going to. Now he was hurt towards the end of the year, so he might keep it because he
Right.
might not have the market. But Stroman, it's a player option for
Okay.
next season.
Yeah, we don't want to get too much into free agents, and it's more so like
No, Mika brought the name up, so I just wanted to.
more so guys that are on the roster. Do they go and then look for certain pieces? So it sounds like nobody wants Casty on the team next year. That's a safe bet.
I think he'll be here. I think your improvements are going to be on the pitching staff. I don't know there's much in the lineup you're going to be able to do.
He's
So
the
then
one
you're
guy
not
who
signing
can save
Hoskins? Are you not signing Hoskins then?
It depends what he wants on the contract.
Yeah, but you're not going to keep. You're going to have too many players, so people are going to sit on the
you
bench.
won't- Yeah, I don't. Unless somebody gets traded, you can't sign Hoskins.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he'll get a bigger contract than maybe the Phillies would want to give him, but somebody's going to want that bat in the lineup. That's my guess. So I would say no, he wouldn't end up re-signing.
Okay. Are we going to pick who's going to win? Nah, I'm just joking. Nobody cares about the World Series. But the Phillies did release their bullpen coach and their assistant hitting coach. So those moves right there might make them a better team. Because that was probably the reason why they lost the playoffs this year. So that was a good move for them. Especially that assistant hitting coach. He was probably responsible. All right. Anything else before we move into the Eagles? Any last thoughts? Jason, do you have a dinner in mind for the?
That's right.
Looks like
So
I have a last thought before you do that,
okay.
because I know this has been floated out there. Obviously, I don't listen to a lot of hometown sports radio. I listen to more national sports radio, but
What's Steve Sachs got to say
and
about
it's
it?
overreaction to them losing. Is Thompson the guy for this team?
You're not. They're not firing Thompson.
Not saying they're going to fire him, but do you think he's?
I think he's made mistakes, but I don't think he's the best strategist.
Right.
But I think he's a good manager.
right. What I was gonna just say is for all the reasons why we blame Thompson in the playoffs, you can argue are the same reasons why they got to where they're at. Because
Exactly.
he didn't mess with the lineup, he put guys. Everybody likes him. He's good with that stuff,
Yep.
just like Charlie did. Charlie was the same
Exactly.
way, and he didn't. Game 5 against St. Louis, he didn't change the lineup, and they lost. But you can just argue they wouldn't be where they're at without that type of manager. So
Yep.
yeah, I agree.
I
I
agree.
don't see a move happening.
Yep.
Yeah, I just
I
don't.
do-
I just don't know who improves it. Like who, or if Thompson's not your guy, who is? And I don't have another name in my head.
He's not going anywhere.
But they had that press conference today. Dombrowski had his post-season, whatever, end of the season press conference, and the first question that
Wow.
Eskin asks him
Of course.
is, "Tell me the reasons why Rob Thompson should remain your manager."
Yeah.
You put him on the spot and having to explain all that.
Yeah.
I know he's not going to get fired, and he shouldn't be fired. He's not the one going out there and striking out with the bases loaded, but I just wonder if this is the last year he's got for them, because their expectations and the level of where what they have to reach now.
Well,
is
he's only got 1 year left, right? He only signed a 2-year deal.
2-year
I think,
deal.
right?
Yep. This is his last
So-
year. I mean, they could
Yeah,
re-sign him, but
I think I think like Tommy said, he's like a Charlie Manuel type. Where like,
and then
just
honestly,
good.
baseball. That's most what baseball managers are.
yeah. Now I would like to see them hire a good bench coach, maybe, who could help him out, like a Jimmy Williams used to do with Charlie Manuel. You know what I mean? Like help him out with strategies. And
Move
stuff
Dusty
like that.
Watham off of third.
Yeah, I gotta be honest too. I don't know. Yeah, he's terrible. I don't know how much of all that is him either, in game, because I feel like they might have the analytics team puts together a book for him, and this is the route we want to go in this game with bullpen. This is who we want against this guy. This is where we want them. Things like that. So
Okay.
I think that plays a part in it as well. I obviously don't know that,
But again, the expectations now, because of 2 years in a row of where they've been, is going to be like World Series or bust. And if they don't achieve that in the window of opportunity they have,
Yeah, but he's also
managers get
taken
the
him
blame
this
for
far.
stuff like that.
He's also
And
taken him this far,
I
like
get
Charlie
it.
Manuel
I get
used
it.
to do.
100%. I get it. I'm only saying, that's where you're at now. You have to reach the same expectations as the year before or greater. And not that they regressed. They were a better team this year than they were last year. They shouldn't be in this position, but. Yeah.
So let me throw this one thing out before I reveal where my dinner's coming from. I will say, for me, I think this loss ranks up there for me with Eagles Tampa Bay. And I was at that game, so maybe that game it has extra meaning for me. But for me, this was a choke that was on par with that.
The only thing I'll
because-
say about this is this was like a slow death. It wasn't like Game 7 loss hurt me as much as the series hurt me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like in the Tampa, it was one. Obviously, football's one game.
But what I'm saying is, like, it's a team they should have beat, and they most likely would have went on to win a championship after.
Yeah,
See-
it's going to turn out to the most disappointing.
it was.
Phillies
It's.
season.
It was disappointing. That's exactly what it was.
It's disappointing because they were up 2-0 for sure, and they lost. You lose your last 2 games at home. But to me, it's not. To me, 2010 and 2011 were more
2010
disappointing.
Was underratedly bad.
And that's because
underratedly
like
bad.
going into the 2010, you had been the World Series 2 years in a row. The Giants had their pitch, and now the Giants went on to win 3 World Series in 5 years. They were a better team, and Cody
Yeah.
Ross beat you or whatever in that series. Like same thing.
And Uribe.
2011, it's the 4 aces. You have the best record in team history, and you basically let the Cardinals get in the playoffs by sweeping the Braves, and you have a 4-0 lead with Cliff Lee on the mound. To me, those are the 2 years like they were that prohibitive favorites going into the playoffs. And they didn't make the World Series in either of those years. And 2011 ends with Ryan Howard and his career lying on the base path. Like, to me, those are worse. Like, this team had a great chance to win, but they weren't the favorites going in. They were still behind Atlanta. They were still behind the Dodgers. They were, we thought they could beat them.
They were
but
up 2-0 in the series. They were the favorite to win the World Series.
Yeah, it's disappointing because of the opponent of who they were
Dude,
playing.
what's
and how
that?
they
Right,
shot.
because
This
the
is the
opponent.
second.
I would not have. I would honestly, if they would have won the other night, I would not have picked them to beat Texas. I wouldn't have. And that's not reverse jinx. That's not whatever. I wouldn't have picked them
This
to
is
beat
the second
Texas.
team. Arizona is the second team to make the World Series with a losing run differential.
Yeah,
a negative
They should
run
have beat.
differential.
They should have beat Arizona. But to me, this wasn't the team that was better than everybody else, like those other teams I was talking about were. But they should have won the
Yeah,
series.
but they also,
games.
I mean, Giants won the World Series that year. Cardinals won the World Series that year
The
too.
Giants went on to win 3.
Right, so
the
maybe they
Giants
weren't as
turned
bad
out to
as
be-
you
Yeah.
thought.
I mean, if Arizona sweeps Texas, maybe they weren't as bad as we thought either. But they should have.
we'll see.
They should have beaten Arizona. But it just, to me, it wasn't as bad as those 2 years. This loss.
Arizona's like the Phillies of last year. They're the same situation. Just kind of snuck up on everybody. And who knows if they're going to win the World Series? But that's the same kind of season the Phillies had last year is what they had this year.
All right. I will say before you give yourself props, Jason, that I do have my Rangers about from the All-Star Break podcast that I picked win the World Series. So the only one left of the group.
Yep.
But
Yep.
Jason, reveal your humble brag.
Well, I believe I had not in the beginning. I didn't have the Rangers, but I did pick them.
And when we did our
beat
playoff
Houston,
show, yeah. No, I picked them from the All-Star break.
Yeah. So all right. So we did that draft. I forget when it was around the.
I think it was the All-Star. I think it was the same show, except you got Texas somehow.
So I wound up drafting Texas and Arizona. So I guess I'm going to win. And I'll now reveal where you guys are going to buy me dinner. And that will be Doc's Oyster House in Atlantic City. And Chalky, I did check. They have multiple steaks, different steaks. So
Didn't we go to that disaster before, or is that a different
no.
place?
I've been there.
No,
I've been there before. I don't.
No, this is a night.
Where's it at?
We were never there. We
went to some oyster house down by like
resorts.
Bally's or something.
That was in
it?
resorts.
Okay, yeah,
That
all
was
right.
a.
Oh man.
No,
I bet it's in. This is in Harris, right? Isn't it in Harris, Doc?
No, it's
this
not
is
in
on
the
the street.
casino at all. It's on the
It's
street.
on the street.
It's on the
Ah,
street.
I don't
Okay,
think I've been there.
I know what you're talking about. Now.
Good place.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Good
good,
choice.
right, Mika? You ate there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's not going to be the most enjoyable dinner, but
Chalky's talking about that place we sat outside and ate. I think.
it's a dumpster fire. That
yeah.
place.
What was
horrible.
that? I do. Yeah.
Oh,
That
I
was
know-
in
I
resorts.
know.
Meeker was there too.
The place in Dallas.
That was
Yeah.
in Dallas.
Yeah. That was bad.
That's
Yeah.
no longer. They changed that
Well,
whole thing.
shocked.
Go figure.
Yeah,
Shocked.
All right.
The
Let's
new place is
let's move on since we're 47 minutes in. We haven't talked about the NFL, and we still got to go through all our picks. So quickly, as starting now, we're going to start talking a lot about the Eagles. So we don't have to go too much into it. But the Eagles probably had they had their most impressive win of the season. They still have issues turning the ball over. Hurts still has issues turning the ball over. He comes out of the game banged up. He's supposed to play Sunday, and I'm assuming he's going to play Sunday. But at times, he looked good. Now, I'll turn it to Jason, but quickly, my one point is, in New York with Hurts, he was bad. He made mistakes, and he never turned around. He was bad from midway through, a quarter through, to the end. In this game, anytime just like in the Super Bowl, when he looked bad, he had that he had the fumble or whatever. I think it was fumble. He had the bad interception, but then he turned it around and looked great in those last couple, the play to A.J. Brown, a couple of the passes. So, his ability to shake off the mistakes and look to be the Hurts that we think he could be was the difference to me in this game. But, I'll let you guys go. Jason, thoughts on the Eagles?
Yeah, like you said, Miami really wasn't competitive at all in this game. The Eagles, like you said, played their best game of the year. They shut down Miami's run game. I think Miami had issues, after that. So, and Hurts played well. Other than the pick six can't happen, but I believe he hurt his knee before halftime because I heard today that there was a possibility he wasn't coming back out.
Yeah, it was that
Like
play.
Mariota
It was that play along the sideline where he got
When he
tackled
ran to
from
the sideline.
behind.
He
Yeah,
ran out,
definitely.
Yeah,
Because he came
Yeah,
up
you can
hobbly
see
after that.
He pulled up short. Yeah. So, because the pick six is bad. Like your arm angle's bad on that. You can't throw that ball there. You either eat it or you throw it away or something. But he was hurt. If he was hurt, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt there. So, and then like you said, like he's probably still hurt. Like he was making comments or he hopes it doesn't bother him for the rest of the year and stuff like that. So, how much is it going to affect him going forward?
The only thing is that the drive after he threw the interception, the first play of that next drive, he had like a 25-yard run up the middle.
They probably shot him up at halftime.
No. This was after the drive directly after the interception. Because the interception was in the
okay.
second half, the pick six. So this was the next drive. So it was from extra point kickoff to the next play. He had a 25-yard up the middle.
He was probably even shot up before the interception. But I'm just saying, if he's got a brace on and all, you give him the benefit of the doubt there. But it just remains to be seen. Like, is this going to be a lingering injury? Is it going to get worse? Is it going to slow him down? Is he not going to be able to run? at some point as much as he should. I don't know.
Yeah, chalky.
Yeah, I mean, you made a good point, Tom. Is the 2 turnovers were 10 of the 17 points the Dolphins put up. So the defense obviously played well. And both drives after the turnover, Hurts comes back on the field and leads them to touchdowns. So didn't let it get it down. And, he certainly bears responsibility on both of them, if not for the majority. Of the first one, he probably stayed in the pocket too long, didn't take it and run, and then got hit from behind. And then, watching the interception, there was an RPO, and he made the right read not to hand it off because Swift got gobbled up. But then he's got to tuck it down and just take the sack, and he can't try to throw that pass. So that was on him there. But I mean, he made a couple good throws throughout the game, and look. Ever since whatever you want to call it on the sidelines in that Minnesota game, I mean, A.J. Brown has probably been the best receiver in the league week in and week out since then, especially with guys like Jefferson getting hurt and a couple of guys, So, what is it, 125-yard games in a row now he's got or whatever? So,
I think it's a record. I think
it's tied a record, I think. Yeah, I forget who the other guy was. Was it Moss or somebody else had it? But it's like for consecutive games, and that the defense as a whole has played better since the last Washington matchup where they looked awful. Held the Rams to 14. They held no touchdowns in the second half. The one touchdown in the Jets game was because they had to let them score, and they only let the Dolphins put one long touchdown drive together. So. That seems to be hopefully getting better as they get healthy, and they made the trade for the safety this week, so that's one of their big spots where they needed help. So best win of the year, but there's still improvement to be made.
Yeah, they got a little bit lucky too that Tyreek Hill dropped that one pass that was a touchdown that they wound up getting the turnover on downs, but I mean that happens in games. Meeker,
yeah. And then
they came right back.
The touchdown that was a pick six, so they got it right back.
Oh, that was the pick six.
Yeah, because they missed the face mask too on the.
That was that same drive.
Turnover on downs. Yeah.
Meeker.
Yeah, and played a real solid game against a really good team. I agree. It's probably their best win of the season. The defense, like Jason said, stopped the run. They got to Tua 4 times. So, Tua isn't used to the pressure that the Eagles put on him. I mean, he doesn't get sacked very often. They got to him 4 times. And they played really disciplined football because they had 0 penalties in the game. And that's big, when you're playing a team like Miami.
0 penalties called.
0 penalties called, yeah. And it was, and Lane Johnson looked like he was fine, so I'm assuming that everything's good with his ankle.
Gave up a sack.
He did not get credited with that.
They didn't credit him.
Was Chubb on his side?
No, they said he picked the right guy up and then he shifted to the other guy. It was somebody else's responsibility.
Oh,
so he did not get credited with the sack.
That's a little.
He got flat out beat on that play.
I'm just telling you how the stats were. He's not credited with that sack. I think
so. Maybe this whole not for 2 years. We have to go back and look.
Quite possibly, yes. Quite possibly.
Somebody else said that too. That there was actually sacks that he hasn't gotten credited in that streak.
Yeah, then that might be a little fugazi. All right.
But yeah, I mean, in the end, the big interception by Slay obviously was the big play of the game, and I guess they kind of kept Tyreek Hill in check. I mean, he had 88 yards, 11 catches, but he didn't crush him deep. So
yeah, you hold him to 80-something yards, that's a win.
Yeah, Hurts played a solid game, but we'll see with this injury how this injury shakes out with him, being able to run. So, and I thought that the play. You said it happened when he got tackled near the sideline. I think he was running for a first down. I think it was 3rd down and 6, and he ran for a first down and got it. That was the first time I seen him, and he ran out of bounds. That was the first time I seen him walking with a little bit of a limp.
Yeah, but he
got pushed down.
Slowed up. Did he slow up because something tweaked and he got hurt on the hit, or did he slow up because he was close to the sideline? I couldn't.
It looked like it wasn't slowing up. It didn't look like an intentional slow up to me. It looked like he was a hobble, not like I'm just gonna because he wasn't even really that close to the sideline when I picked it up in the game. So he wasn't even at the numbers yet. I don't think so. I think that might have. Now he's saying they did it in another game, which
Yeah.
probably BS because he wasn't on the injury report,
Right.
but
And he had a brace in the second half and not the first half.
not
so,
the first half. But something on that play, whether he tweaked it or that was the original, that's where it was obvious.
All right. Am I the only one that would love to see the Eagles push from the 20-yard line to get a touchdown?
right.
I really would.
I
I think they would score. I think they would get a touchdown if they just did
They
it.
probably would. I
possible.
think they're going to take it out.
Oh, me
They're
too.
Gonna, they're going to
Yeah,
ban
I
it.
think so.
I mean,
too.
we talked about. I think they're going to try to find every single way to call something on these plays to where they're not going to try to run it because they might get flags. Look at that.
Did you see Purdy did a regular quarterback sneak and got
he got a
crushed?
concussion.
Right. So then
Yeah,
they need
he
to
got
take
a
quarterback
concussion,
sneaks out of the game if they're.
Oh, what's it? It was
Jones got hurt on it too, right? Didn't Daniel Jones get hurt on
I
it?
think he did. And then was it Cousins? It wasn't. He didn't get a chance to get pushed from behind because was it the linebacker on San Francisco flew
Oh
over the
yeah,
top of the line
Warner
and hit him
jumped over the
before.
line.
Also
it's
remember-
even,
A couple years ago, Mahomes
dislocated his
knee
kneecap
on
on a
it.
quarterback sneak.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So they would have to eliminate the quarterback sneak if they really want to try to avoid injury. But
These guys are getting hurt before somebody's coming up from behind them and pushing. So that's what they're saying. But
and
the
they
Eagles
do
don't
it.
even
That
really use
pushing
that for
stuff.
leverage that much.
Pushing stuff. You see it.
Don't even
You
matter.
see a receiver catch the ball at the 2-yard line and the whole team push him into the end zone. Yeah. So they need to.
It's Kelsey and whichever one of the guards and Hurts' leg strength that gets that more than somebody
Yeah.
coming from behind.
Oh,
and
for
pushing
sure.
them, so.
Well, I don't think the
It's
Eagles
Kelsey
would.
and Hurts.
Yeah.
It's Kelsey and Hurts.
The Eagles would still be the best quarterback sneak team if it wasn't, but I do
Yeah.
think they're going to ban it. All right, so quickly
ban
we'll
it.
go through this game. Washington. What was it? 7, I think it's up to that.
6.5.
6. Is it still 6.5?
6.5.
Thought
It's
I
up to
just
7 now.
Yeah, I thought I just
Oh,
saw
7.
7 too. They struggled against Washington last game at home. They were a bigger favorite at that time. That had to be a bigger favorite.
9.
Washington's kind of been the Jekyll and Hyde team where there's times where they look okay. I mean, they look good against the Eagles, and then you have times like last week where they are horrendous.
Yep.
So we'll start with Chalky. What's your thoughts for the game quickly and your prediction?
I mean, they lost to a bad Giants team, and they lost to the Bears before that, right? So they're kind of spinning out of control, and players are unhappy in the locker room. So it seems like almost too obvious that the Eagles should win this game easily, especially after the first game. But, I mean, they should win this game fairly easily. I mean, I'll say, 27-13, which might have been my prediction last time. But this should not have to be a close game with the way both teams are playing right now.
Okay. Meeker.
Yeah, it shouldn't have to be, but I don't know. Again, could we consider this trap game since Dallas is coming up next week? And the line's a little bit low. I think the Eagles will win. I think Hal's going to have to be even better than he was against the Eagles the first meeting to win the game if you're Washington. But their defense is a little bit in disarray. I mean, I think the Eagles will win the game, but I think it's actually going to be a little close, maybe right on the line. I'm going to say 30-24 Eagles.
And Jason.
Chalky, what was your prediction?
Would I say 27-13?
27.
I don't see it as much of a trap game because they went to overtime and easily could have lost the game before. So I think that plays a part.
I mean, it's a
That's not
trap game in the
game,
sense
but-
that they have Dallas next week.
Yeah.
And they came off of a Miami game. So
Yeah.
it's
But if they
right
beat
in
them by
that sense.
20
Right.
points last time, it'd be a lot easier for me to believe they'll overlook them potentially.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just saying definition. Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree with you guys. I think it's going to be close. I think Washington they played them well. They moved the ball at will on them up and down the field last game. Hurts is a little banged up. We don't know what's going to happen with that. I think it's a coin toss game. I think the Eagles will win, but I think it'll be like a field goal game. I think it'll be like 24-21. That's my prediction.
Okay, and for me, I didn't think it was. I thought that line was kind of high, that it's 7 on the road with a banged up Hurts. So to me, I don't think it's going to be close. I think Washington is in disarray, like Meeker said. They didn't really get to Hal all that much. I think they had a bunch of sacks, but if you watch the game, he had time and he was able to scramble out of the pocket. I think this time is going to be a little bit different. I got a 37-13. I don't think it's close.
Okay.
All right, so let's get into our picks. Jason, this is where you take over.
All right, so last week, over-under is kind of even on the week. It was 6 over, 7 under. So on the year, under is still has an advantage, 62. I can read my writing right. And then over was 43. So under still 59% on the year. Public's record and over under, they're good over under. They were 8-5 on the week, and they're 57 and 48.
You know what's funny is you look at. I know we use Vegas Insider. There's so much more times now that I see the public on the under than I used to see in the past.
Oh, now they do. Yeah, because of what's going on.
Yeah, you used to see them on the over almost every game.
Yeah, NFL just can't make these games low enough.
Yeah,
I mean, they just continue to go lower, these scores. It's because the quarterback plays so bad. But I will say, so the public finally crapped the bed against the spread. There's finally a week where the public handicappers got crushed. It was 3-10 they were against the spread. They're still positive on the year, 59 and 45, which is 57%. So, but finally got a week where the people who pick against the public finally came out ahead, and I'm one of them. So now we will get to our picks from last week. And let's start with Chalky. Chalky is 3-0 again. He's now on a 6-game winning streak.
Woo.
So Chalky won his Ravens best bet. He also won on the
should get extra
Rams.
points for that game, that Ravens game.
Yes, well, we all
Yeah,
should.
should have laid 13 or something.
Yes,
at least,
that was a great. That should have been a Broad Street Hustle Twitter pick. We got to start doing that again. But Steelers Rams, he got the under in there, and then
caught
Broncos,
a break. Caught a little bit of a break
he caught
there.
a break. Listen,
Out
not
of
gonna bring it
challenges,
up,
but yeah.
you did catch a break. That's all right. And then the Broncos money line. So he went 3-0. Now he's on a 6-game winning streak. I'll follow up with myself. I also had the Ravens as my best bet. And then I won the Falcons-Bucks under. But I did lose on the Raiders-Bears under. Got a little unlucky there with the
the pick six. Yeah, yep.
And then they scored a BS touchdown at the end of the game with a backup quarterback. But it's a loss. So 2-1. Tommy came back last week. He was 2-1 also. His best bet also hit with the Eagles. And he also had the Ravens. So, again, Broad Street Hustle pick. And then, but he did lose with the Saints.
That's it, Meeker. I'm done. Divorced. No more Saints picks for me.
I told you that one.
So Tommy went 2-1. And then, let's get to Meeker. So 2 weeks ago, Meeker went 3-0. And the NFL football handicapping gods got pissed off at Meeker for going 3-0. So now he is on a 5-game losing streak. It should have been 6, but he got lucky. But so Eagles-Dolphins.
To be fair, that line was 48.5 at game time, so I actually won the bet. So I know that at the time that we put it in,
How often do we
Tommy's
talk
always
about
complained
this?
about this.
Yeah, he does. And we tell him the same thing that we're going to tell you.
I will defend
Tough
him.
shit.
He has the ability to gripe on this one. I agree.
Tough shit.
In the real world, I won that bet.
Okay,
Not
so
in the podcast world.
but you lost on the pocket. Well, you didn't lose. You pushed.
I pushed. Yeah.
But so Eagles-Dolphins loss. Raiders, Joe Public pick, which we told you Joe Public pick, and it was a bad Joe Public pick. Lost. And then again, the Chiefs-Chargers were 24-17 at halftime. And Meeker somehow pulled out a push in that game. Don't ask me how, that there's only 7 points scored in the second half of that game, but you got to push. So,
And if I don't know who caught Swift on his way to the end zone, but that would have went over if Swift would have scored on that play. And then they knelt on it 4 times in a row.
yeah.
Slow death.
So let's do overall record. So Chalky's now the leader right now. We have the same record, but he's got a little better profit. So Chalky is 13-8 on the year. His profit is $419, 62% win percentage, and he's 20% ROI. I'm also 13-8. My profit's only $378, 62% win percentage, 18% ROI. Tommy's 8-13, loss of $476, 38% win percentage, minus 23% ROI. Meeker 7-13, loss of $661, 35% win percentage, minus 33% ROI. The pod is getting there. We're now 41-42. We're still a loss of $339, 49% win percentage, minus 4.1% ROI. Our best bets, Or I should say the pod went 7-4, 7-4-1 last week, so it was a good week for the pod. Our best bets, I'm 3-4, Tommy's 2-5, Chalky's 5-3, or no, 5-2. I'm sorry, and Meeker's 3-4. So for the year, the pod is 13-15. We will end with all-time records. I am 46-27 with a profit of $1,471, 63% win percentage, 20% ROI. Tommy's 36-31. Profit of $389, 54% win percentage, 6% ROI. Chalky's now even. He's 37-37. Still at a loss of $291, 50% win percentage, minus 4% ROI. And then Meeker, 30-41, a loss of $1,380, 42% win percentage, minus 19% ROI. Not good.
All right, and with that, Jason, we will give you a break. Chalky, as the pod expert, will let you go first.
Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to announce my retirement from selecting any future games and just kind of stop before it gets really bad. All right, so this week, 3 unders this week. Best bet is under in the Panthers-Texans game, 43.5. That's minus 112. Second is under in the Chiefs-Broncos game. That is 47, minus 110. And I could not find a third pick that I really liked. And this is one where bets are on the over, money's on the under, but I'm going under in the Ravens Cardinals game. That's 44.5, minus 108.
Okay, and I'll take it. I did think this was a very tough week to find games, but I did find the Jets as my best bet of the week. So when I checked before the pod, they were minus 2.5, minus 112. Don't know if they still are.
I had -3, but you probably checked.
I checked right before we signed on. So
I had -3, minus 105. So it's probably
minus 2.5, 112.
Yeah. Miami -9, minus 112.
I had 9.5 on Miami, but
9, 112.
okay.
And Houston, Carolina under 43.5, minus 112.
Yep.
All right, and we will go to Jason, so we can leave Meeker for last.
So my best bet is the Jets, and it's yeah. Listen, when we have the same best bet, we've been good this year. -2.5, minus what? 112 is it now? Okay, change that. My second pick is going to be under in the Patriots-Dolphins game. The weather does not look good in that game. There's a lot of wind, and there's some rain. And I think it's going to be tough to throw the ball. So I had under 40. I can't read my writing anymore. 46.5 and minus 110.
47.
It's now 47. Is it 110?
110.
Wow. Oh, I'll take that. I will take it. And then Jaguars-Steelers. So there's going to be a lot of rain in that game. I'm going under 42, I believe, right?
41.
41.
It's 41 now. Yeah, they're moving it down. There's going to be a lot of rain in that game, and Trevor Lawrence is not good in rain. We've seen he turns the ball over like a madman in the rain. So, and what is the is it minus 108?
That was 110.
It's 110. Okay. So I am under in that game.
Okay, and that brings us to last and certainly least. I mean, how's that saying go? Christopher Michael Meeker.
Well, believe it or not, I have 2 games that both of you guys have picked already. So I'm going to start with my best bet, and that's Miami, -9, minus 112.
What the hell?
And I think, I mean, look, maybe it's an overreaction to the Patriots winning last week and Dolphins losing last week, but it started at 12.5, right? That's what it opened at, and now it's down to 9, and New England's getting bet. So I'm going against the public, and I'm going to bet Miami -9. My second pick is one that Jason took, and that's under in the Pittsburgh-Jacksonville game, under 41, minus 110, for the same reasons Jason pointed out. And my third pick is the Vikings, -1.5, minus 110 against Green Bay. I just kind of think that this is maybe too. I don't know about that. It was like 50.
Public.
That isn't. Not when I saw it. It's not a public bet. Two teams going kind of opposite directions. I mean, Minnesota with a pretty impressive win last week. Green Bay hasn't played well at all. And I'm just going to ride it out with Minnesota. -1.5, -110.
I mean,
Those were spooky picks.
Meeker is correct in that Green Bay is the public side in that game as we stand right now.
Oh, it must have switched. It still seems publicly to me.
Mhm.
I bet you we can make a small side wager that the Vikings will be the public pick on Sunday. But anyway, so what was it? Vikings minus what?
1.5.
Minus what?
-1.5, -110.
Minus 3.5, minus 110.
1.5.
Spooky?
1.5.
2.5.
1.
Oh, that's going to be. There's
1.5.
no doubt in my mind that the Vikings will be. Tom, do you agree with the Vikings will
they
be?
were.
Let's
I
get the
will say
line.
earlier in the day they were the public pick,
And they'll swing
they-
by Sunday. You know, we're doing this Thursday night. By Sunday, they will be the public pick in that game.
Yeah, so
Miami might end up being the public pick by Sunday, too. We'll see.
could
Who?
be.
Miami.
As it
Maybe.
stands right now,
That's
according to Vegas Insider, 57% of the spread bets are on the Packers in terms of number of bets, and 93% of the spread money is on the Packers.
It'll be a big swing if that happens.
Well, not with the tickets.
With
With
the
the
money.
money. The money is the smart money, and the tickets.
Yeah, I mean, and you obviously have no idea how much money is in yet. So.
No. All right. Anybody have a? I know at the end we sometimes give out stuff. Jason, you seem like you have.
I do. I think Pollard for the Cowboys will score, and Kittle will have a big game, and I think he will score for the.
Is Purdy played in that game? He's trending
don't
to
think
he
so.
may though. I thought I just saw he practiced.
He's still in protocol, but he was running around throwing at
Yeah.
practice today. So it seems
I don't
like there's
think anybody's ever been in protocol though and played, right?
most.
I don't think it's a play.
So it's a short week, which hurts because it's 6 instead of 7 days with the Monday night game. But he was doing more today than most folks are doing. So I would say he probably doesn't, but it's probably more likely than most guys in the same situation.
Yeah, I forgot
I
about
still-
the
I
Monday.
still
That
like Kittle.
seems impossible.
Without Debo, I still think Kittle's going.
By the way, that's another one. That's like consecutive weeks in primetime games that the quarterback gets a concussion, doesn't leave the game, and then gets diagnosed afterwards.
Yeah, when did that injury take place?
Before he
when
threw
he
the
did
two
the sneak.
before he threw the 2
Oh,
interceptions.
yeah. I mean, he was
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, so that
game.
makes sense. Jeez.
Yeah, that didn't help.
Okay, well that wraps up episode 78 of Broad Street Hustle. From here on out, it's probably going to be the NFL for a time. I do think the Sixers.
Next week.
Oh yes, next week is Breeders' Cup and Eagles.
Breeders' Cup.
And we may have a guest for next week.
We may have a guest who is a fan of the team that the Eagles will be playing next week.
He was on,
But he has a lot of good info on that team, so we'll let him come on.
and I believe the Sixers opened up tonight, and they are playing. They were losing last time I looked. I'm assuming they're still losing. We're not
still
even going to get into that disaster of a team. But episode 78, Broad Street Hustle. Have a great night.
Right.